Well, we could spend hours talking through tips and tools.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, great. So having put myself in a lot of positions of extreme difficulty, working all around.
The approach of solving a problem in terms of lateral thinking, how is it different from conventional thinking? Are there any tips or tools that you can talk about?
Well, we could spend hours talking through tips and tools.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, great. So having put myself in a lot of positions of extreme difficulty, working all around the world. I mean, whether it's Durban, South Africa, working on access to medicines for HIV patients, or sorting out environmental challenges in garment factories in Vietnam. I've had the opportunity to participate in problem-solving exercises where, again, the sense of overwhelm can really become its own sort of cloud. And speaking of clouds, there's one particular exercise that is a first go-to, and really lateral thinking. I mean, at its most basic form, it's creative problem solving, looking beyond sort of an immediate logic, right, or ready logic, but really stretching, widening a lens. And there are lots of different lenses that we can pull from in a lateral thinking exercise. I have probably, a dozen that we could walk through today. A real favorite is blue sky, gray sky. So as kind of a born optimist, I've often found myself on the blue sky side, right? And then as you step into really believing this can be solved, and maybe it's a simple A to B, right? Maybe there's just an uncovering process that needs to happen, A to B. A lot of times it's more complex than that, right? And there are a lot of layers to uncover and a lot of risks that, this ready optimist side doesn't always appreciate. So I've worked with teams in the past, really as almost a first run in lateral thinking to pursue blue sky, gray sky. So the blue sky piece, as you can probably guess, is that high opportunity, really big vision, sort of best case scenario. This is really fun. This is your laugh out loud meeting, right? Where you get to just, if this, then this could happen. And you get to play with this brainstorming almost to the nth degree with this real excitement and energy. A lot of times for blue sky meetings, we'll bring the people we know who are the most driven optimists, who really only see the bright side. And they can bring so many ideas to the table with that lens. But it's not the only lens that's relevant or valid. And there was a time when I pursued only blue sky meetings and only blue sky colleagues, right? But what I didn't always appreciate was the gray sky dimension and how important that is, and the fact that there's a creativity element there as well. So there's the possibility of bringing together people who maybe oftentimes are very seasoned, who've run into a lot of brick walls and trying to solve the same problems before, who can shed a lot of light on downside risk, or who can really keep you from that sort of failure of imagination problem that creates its own barriers, right? So pulling together sort of a gray sky group has been for me very illuminating. Well, if you tried this, then this could happen. Or have you considered this dimension or the new problem you create via this? And there's an eye-opening aspect to that becomes very powerful, realizing that the likely outcome is probably somewhere between blue sky and gray sky, and both dimensions have a lot of validity. So blue sky, gray sky can be put into practice in a lot of different ways. You can have the same group and force a blue sky, gray sky dynamic. Great idea on the blue sky side. Now we're going to push you to tell us the gray sky scenario, right? So you can do that with the same group to force what Edward de Bono, who's really the father of lateral thinking, constantly pushed for any team. That's don't fall in love with your ideas immediately. Your primary objective is to generate many ideas commensurate with the multidimensionality of any problem. And if you're romancing, to use that word again, your own ideas, or finding a dominant idea right off the bat and becoming a preacher around that, or a prosecutor against anyone who might offer an alternative, then you're losing the spirit of lateral thinking. So to force that sort of toggle in an organizational context, it really helps create the right level of detachment that can in turn create space for more creativity, which is, again, the spirit and the heart of lateral thinking. Also, there's value in starting off with blue sky and spending, say, a defined period of time, and then going to gray sky and then toggling back to blue sky, right? Or maybe neutral sky as you work to resolve it. Either way, this is an incredible exercise to really ground a team, to really anchor a team in understanding many different sides of an equation, many different sides of a problem. And that alone becomes a driver of lateral thinking and can help instill a culture of lateral thinking as you approach a problem from there.
Very cool. So I just wanted to confirm with you, so that anyone who's tuned in and listening, when we talk about the blue sky and the gray sky, so in layman's terms, blue sky is more conventional solution to a problem, and gray sky is something which has not been maybe tried and tested before and maybe more risky. Does that make sense?
Well, in some ways, it's more kind of optimist versus pessimist in a way, right?
Okay.
And so, my impulse, I mean, to draw from your words, like my convention would be to assume best case, right? To assume best conditions, and blue sky will often run on that assumption, right? But the gray sky can introduce the element of complexity that you need to understand a problem in its fullness. And sometimes the blue sky instinct, as much as I identify with it, can sort of gloss over those tricky pieces that can end up tripping up a solution as you attempt to implement it in the real world. So having both dimensions gives you those two lenses, and lateral thinking requires at least two lenses. That's the spirit of it, right? It's multiple lenses, multiple tools, multiple ways of seeing a problem, which can generate multiple solutions.